Welcome back to the part 2 of this video on doing the jet pump unit. A bunch of parts have arrived, I've been away, and now the ski's had ages for the fiberglass to dry. So I'm going to show you that. We're going to talk about some of the upgraded parts I've got, why I replaced some of the parts, and let's finish the build, let's finish the fix and get this thing finally in the water, because I feel like this jet ski spends 99.9% of its life in my garage and not on the sea. So let's get back to the build.
Okay, it's looking good. It's not looking great, but it's looking good. So here's where we're at. The crack is here. You can see it. Travels around to the side. Just goes through the fiberglass. Doesn't seem to be terrible, but it's not great either. About 1 inch, 2 inch, 3 inches, 3 to 4 inches. And while I'm here, I'm kind of cleaning it down. I'm looking everywhere else for any other signs of cracks or fractures. Luckily the rest seems pretty good. I think a lot of this is gel coat with fiberglass kind of deeper in it, but it's pretty thick gel coat on it. So to repair this, it's probably going to be worth dremeling it back quite a lot to be able to fill in that crack. So I'll probably start doing that today once I've cleaned a bit more of the silicone off. So I've taken a Dremel and I've ground back around the crack line. You can actually see some light through it, because I've done the same on the other side, so it's thinned right into the center of the crack. I'm going to take a heat gun and I'm just going to heat it a bit to get any water, moisture and dampness out of there. And then I'm going to sand it back more and even it out. And then I'm probably going to lay fiberglass on it into the crack, as well as epoxy filler. And then on the other side, I'll show you. The other side needs more work. I haven't quite finished sanding it and grinding it, but this side's going to have larger layers of fiberglass because it can take fiberglass and the bolts will still tighten on top. Whereas on the other side, the jet pump unit, the seal is compromised if I lay thick fiberglass on top, you know. So I used a fiberglass filler to fill in the crack, and I've just been sanding it back. I'm going to add a fiberglass mat or two on top and then sand it and then add gel coat. I had to grind it back a bit more to add space to bring it up again. But the crack itself now is filled with the filler, and the inside's looking good too. Here's the inside.
Overall, pretty happy with how it's coming together. Slow work, tons of sanding, and kind of hard to get access, but apart from that, I think it'll be fine.
So just looking at the back of the ski again, we have my fairly rough looking fiberglass, but it's pretty thick, so that's there. And what my plan is now is I'm going to take a Dremel, I'm going to open up these holes, remove this one, clean out these drill holes, give it a sand, put the transom plate in against the hull and draw around where exactly the transom plate's going to be, and then I need to make sure that sand is super flat. Then I'm going to take some of this, which is a spray gel coat, I think it'll be really easy to deal with, and spray a coat on and give it another sand, spray a bit more gel coat on, give it a bit more, and then I'll probably use this black marine paint then on top of that. And the inside will be the same, but the inside doesn't have to be so clean, it doesn't have to look great, it just has to be functional and strong, and there's a lot of layers on the inside. So I've now given this a really good sand. You can see I've traced the outline of where the plate is, so it's actually quite good because this area of fiberglass is thick, but down here it's perfectly thin again. So the main thing is it's totally covered with sealant, and there's no gaps when I place the transom plate, and yet the strength of this crack area is strong. The crack was worst in this position, but I traced it down all the way as far as here for filling it. So provided there's no flex in the main crack, the tiny split won't continue because this is still intact. So I've cleaned the area with acetone, and after the sand now I prepped it with the tape just to make sure there's no overspray, but I'm only really going to spray this area anyway. And now it's time to apply the gel coat spray paint. So the gel coat is looking really good down there, and it needs 24 hours to harden. So in the meantime, what I've done is I've fitted this exhaust tube, and I fitted the 90-degree bend, which I'm going to be using to straight pipe the exhaust, and
The next piece to consider is this bend, which is going to be going in the middle. Because this is coming out straight here, and this is coming out straight up here, they'll both have the flex. So this one will have to be flexed up, and this one will have to be flexed down slightly. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to mark and cut a length off both ends of this pipe so it's much shorter for the bend. So I think definitely I'll probably cut to here, and then I'll have a look again and see how it fits. So I've taken it, here's the middle bend, and I cut that segment off. The segment I cut off I thought would be on the outflow side, but when I fitted it I just did a dry fit. I used some spray oil for them to slide in easily, and I kind of wiggled it around to see what would work. It actually works best with the water separator on this side and the outflow on this side. So I cut off 3.5 inches, 9 centimeters, and now essentially by plugging it onto the outflow and flexing that up, it fits well. So this plugs on, it goes in until that line, and then this piece flexes up and backwards. So there is a bit of a flex down here which allows the junction to move, but it's rubber so it's fine. And then there's going to be the 90° on this side. So I planned for this because there's flex and extra adjustment. I'm actually going to use double Jubilee clamps on each side. So I need to pick some more Jubilee clamps up from the marine shop, but essentially there's going to be two. So there's going to be one here clamping the main part of the force, and then a second just as a kind of a backup, just to make sure that that seal is really good, just because there's flex and there's a bit of an angle to it. So here it is now. I've attached it just to show you roughly what it looks like, because I'm going to be taking it all off again now. But as you can see, there's a good sized gap on this side, which is just big in the finger, and it doesn't need any extra support because it's so stable. So once that's strapped down and once the clamp's back on down there, I think it'll be really decent. So the main benefit of this is not what most people would do it for, which is to straight pipe their jet ski for any power or sound. I'm actually doing it because the whole issue with water being stuck down here and leaks, the biggest problem was the exhaust pipe being in the way. So I'm actually planning on filling these kind of channels with a silicone so that the water can only really pool in one area, and by having a straight pipe exhaust it's much easier to get a sponge in there and clean out the bilge and make sure that the jet ski is dry at the end of the day. The other thing you can consider is you can actually put in this area here, consider putting an electric bilge pump directly connected to the battery, which is an auto bilge pump. So if you leave your jet ski on a mooring overnight, for example, and it does decide to leak, and instead of sinking it will actually just pump out. Now you also run the risk of your battery being dead, so I don't think it's really needed. So hopefully this repair will sort out all the leaks and it will be good then.
So here's just a small clip showing the old ride plate, which I'm replacing because it has a crack in it and it's bent upwards. Any flex on this would touch the jet pump unit, which would flex the crack in my hull. So I bought a new jet ride plate. Next parts I'm going to be replacing are these, which are the fixture points for the ride plate on the back of it. These are super corroded and pretty toast, so I'm just got some new ones. I think it'll improve the seal and prevent any leaks. Another part that has to go is the transom plate. The bolts, actually, two of them sheared off the studs, and you can't buy new studs, so you have to buy a whole new transom plate. So here it is. It's really nice. It's going to be like a new ski.
The next part I'll be replacing is the jet pump wear ring. Unfortunately, Yamaha has designed this with two different metals involved. So the outer piece is a solid billet of aluminium and the inside is stainless steel. And what you can see here is the wearing point from the impeller touching the inside due to dissimilar metal corrosion happening right in between the two layers. and this happens after a lot of salt water usage, not being washed properly, and it eventually squeezes the internal wear ring in towards the impeller and causes wear. This is, in my opinion, a design fault from Yamaha, and it's something that should be addressed instead of having just to replace these often. So the solution is a solid stainless steel aftermarket wear ring. This means that the one solid unit won't have the same issue, and it's basically corrosion proof. So this should last a lot longer, provided I don't suck anything up to damage it. So here's the transom plate, and I read online that just using Sikaflex 29i or any marine sealant that can work, you can actually fill this gap here, which provides a better seal. Yamaha actually intends to just leave this empty, I think to save weight, but it's a strange thing to leave empty. So I decided to follow the lead of someone on a forum and fill this. I'm not filling it with the main sealant, but just a cheaper sealant that will do the job. I'm just using a popsicle stick to smoothen it out a little bit and clean it up, preparing for the main sealant to go on. So there's a little preview. You can see pretty neat. It's super light, and I think it'll provide a better seal on the transom. I'm also going to be using sealant. I removed the two U-bolts on the back of the ski because I think they were leaking also. Now just looking back at the hull here, this is after I spray painted it, making sure it's really smooth on the side, which takes the plate. Another thing I'm replacing are these brass nuts to go on the studs. The old ones were quite corroded, but I cleaned up and I will reuse the old washers. The sealant they recommend online is the 5200 FC by 3M. Apparently it's far superior to what was used on the original transom seal from factory, and quite a lot of people report having a good seal or a bad seal on their ski, and the bad seals are known to leak. So you can see I'm adding extra sealant on the inside section here, and then also following the sealant guidelines. I really do hope this will be a better seal than before, as it was leaking, given the fact I had a crack, but also probably because the sealant is better than factory. So that's a bonus. So in the transom plate and hoses under the jet pump section of the manual, you're looking at 26 Newton meters for the 4 bolts on the transom. So here I am placing the transom plate on after we've applied the sealant. My friend Vinicius is helping me. He's going to hold it from the outside while I tighten the nuts on the inside. So I carefully squeezed it on, trying to keep it as straight as possible, placing the 4 washers on first and then the nuts on top. The way I tightened these was I basically took the slack out of them, and then I began to tighten them diagonally to ensure that the transom plate was evenly stuck. The 26 Newton meters of torque, I only applied that in diagonal torque pattern once all of the nuts had taken up the slack first, and the transom plate was well squished against the hull. So here you can see I'm just torquing the last one. It did take some time and it was a bit messy on the inside, but on the outside it's looking quite good. The overspread of the sealant is perfectly fine. I only wiped it off from the inside of the jet unit. Another cool mod I added, which is worth mentioning, is a key for the power source on the battery. So I added an extra lead in line to the starter motor, and with this key it stops anyone using the ski without having this turned on inside the hull. The next thing to fit was the stainless steel wear ring, which comes with an O-ring, which actually the Yamaha original doesn't have. So I fitted the O-ring wet with dielectric grease, which is waterproof, as I didn't want to apply a dry O-ring, help it squeeze in. I liberally applied this, but it was still a very tight fit, and it actually cut my glove on the edge, so be careful. What I ended up doing in the end to fit it in was I used the 4 bolts which bolted in, and I gradually tightened them using my impact wrench very slowly, diagonally of course, even pressure to get it to slot in place. It was a very tight fit, but it went in. So that pretty much wraps up everything for this video, guys. Stay tuned for the next video where I finish off the jet pump unit and get the ski on the water. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe.